Well, good day, viewers. Today we have an '03 Chevy Silverado 2500 HD with a Dirty Max, and it has a service four-wheel drive message. Service four-wheel drive message. And four-wheel drive indicator lights are not on. So let's scan it and see what codes it has to offer. Okay, let's try this again. Won't auto ID because it's too old. Not because the vehicle doesn't support it, but because Snap-on doesn't support it. So, and it doesn't even allow me to do a network code scan. So let's go into transfer case. Display codes. No communication. So first and foremost, we're going to check the fuses that feed the transfer case controller. Okay, let's see if any of the other modules are complaining about a loss of communication with it. Let's try the engine codes. Now he did say that he had a fuel pressure code at some point. Loss of ACM HVAC communication. Okay. Try the instrument cluster, because it's the one that's displaying a message. Class 2 data link fault. Okay. Plot thickens. Let's try the transmission controller. No codes in it. I don't think this has manual HC. No codes. Okay, well, we're going to go back to the basics. Start by checking the fuses that power up the 4x4 actuator, 4x4 module. Okay, I'm pretty sure this is a New Venture Gear 263 or an NP1 transfer case. Shows one fuse in the underhood fuse block, 30 amp, it's hot all the time. Four-wheel drive signal to the powertrain control module, transmission control module. Well, let's check that fuse first. TREC fuse. So this is the 30 amp fuse right here. And it's hot all the time. Got power on both sides of the fuse. I'm going to pull it out just to look at it. So the fuse looks good. Been burnt once where the outlet leg on the fuse was corroded right off, yet it tested good on the surface and it looked good. So I wonder if there's any ignition feed to wake that up. I'm going to look at the schematic again. So there is a 15 amp four-wheel drive fuse in the left fuse box in the left IP. That feeds the front axle actuator. I wouldn't think that would stop it from communicating, but let's check that too. So that 15 amp fuse is good, although I can't see that preventing it from communicating. So let's go back to the transfer case control module connector. Let's find out where this transfer case control module lives. Component locations. Transfer case switch, transfer case in the left side of the IP under the driver's side dash area. So views and let's look at this one. Well, that looks to me like it's under the left side of the dash. 4 is the instrument panel, not listed here. That's facing forward. No, there's 4, the instrument panel. Well, let's see if we can get a connector view. So I'm printing off the connector views. Apparently there are 3 connectors. Connector 1, 2, 3. That one's pretty. Let's print this one as well. And we'll go find it under the dash. So the transfer case module lives up above the brake pedal here, or the parking brake pedal. There's barely enough wire to access it. Now there's 3 connectors on it. The one on your right has a red, orange, and 2 blacks. The orange comes from that 30 amp fuse and it's powered up. Now the black one is ground and there is no other key switch power, so it must use serial data to wake up. That's the only thing I can think of. I looked at all of the, so you got battery positive circuit 1640, which comes from this 30 amp fuse. I checked that with a test light. It powers up a test light. And that's connector 3 and pin A on connector 3, which is black, goes to ground. So we're going to qualify that ground, this one here. And this connector, connector 2, has encoder motor and stuff. Here's serial data on connector 1. Connector 1 is the black connector. So A1 is class 2 serial data. And I think there's a ground A8, which will be up here in this corner. It's black and white. There's going to be a ground. And that's it. So 2 grounds to qualify. So I'm load testing that orange wire and black wire there with a headlight. That's about 3.5 amps. So that ground's good. So we're going to leave the one wire connected to the orange and check the ground on the other connector. So A8 ground is good too. So now we're going to get a lab scope out here, a graphing multimeter, and look at serial data on that wire, but I have to backpin it. Well, that's on the green-white wire on connector 1, which is the black connector. A1, dark green white, class 2 serial data, and that's what I've got. That's not correct. Let's look at it at the diagnostic port, which is this one right here. Well, maybe I got to change my time base. Yeah, I'm on a graphing meter. Let's switch to the time base. Okay, so that's pin 2 at the DLC. Let's see how that compares to serial data at that green-white wire on the black connector. No, that looks the same to me. So we got network activity up to the module. Now I did disconnect it and reconnect it so that it would hard reset it. Let's see if we got communication with it now. I'll plug the scan tool back in. And then we'll check while we're at it if we got communication with other modules on the class 2 network. So we're going to see if we can communicate with this module now. Oh, look at that. You bugger. Now, Class 2 communication malfunction, Class 2 serial communication, motor AB circuit malfunction, encoder circuit. I wonder, 4 low discrete output circuit fault, front axle circuit malfunction, ECU malfunction. Well, these are all in history. Let's clear the codes. Let's make sure they're gone. Yes, they are. I hate when you unplug a module and plug it back in and things start working again. Battery voltage 12.6. Well, let's see if it works. Well, we got indicator lights. And we got actuation of the four-wheel drive. I don't want to try 4 low because it's got to be in neutral. You can hear it shifting. I can hear the front axle actuator engaging. So what fixed it now? Cycling the plug, pulling that 30 amp fuse, because I never tried it after removing that 30 amp fuse. Well, let's put it back together. Well, the 4x4 is working fine now. Shift on the fly. And I can tell it's in four-wheel drive because it binds up on corners. But the ABS light flickered on a few minutes ago. It went off now, and when you come to a normal stop, you got an unwarranted ABS actuation. So it's got a weak speed signal on one of the front wheels. Considering it's pulling to the left, I would say it's probably the right front wheel bearing. Let's try it again. See the steering go to the left. So it's cutting brake pressure to the right front wheel, probably because that speed signal drops out before the other side. Now, is that why the ABS light's coming on? That would be an open in the speed sensor circuit, not a loss of a signal. Take my hand off the steering wheel. Yeah. Well, I'm going to put the scanner on it and record data.